Hello everybody and welcome to Wild Earth this morning. It's pretty overcast here at Juma Game Reserve, a little bit chilly with the wind, but I'm hoping we're going to see some wonderful things this morning. We just had the family of wildebeest pass behind me. I think they've just moved out of shot now. My name's Tara, joining me on camera this morning is Herman, and back in front of control is Malusi. So let's see what we can go and find this morning. I did hear a hyena a little bit further to the south, so I'm quite keen to go and catch up with him. Wildebeest seems to be on a mission this morning. They popped out of the bush and just behind the lodge. I think they must have been down at the dam. Let's just have a quick look, because I do want to see the hyena was calling further down in the south. And all 6 calves are still here, which is great news. We're going to disappear off into the bush. Might just make the way down onto the western side, so turn slightly. So if we do come back up here, we'll be able to have a closer look at them, hopefully. And just in case there's a few viewers who weren't able to join us yesterday, we did see Karula and the cubs yesterday morning, just after drive, and we did have some rain pull in, so Patrick was on his way back to camp and the call came through, so he tried to make his way that side so that he could at least sit with Karula and the cubs, and if the rain passed then we could try and film them and go live with them, but unfortunately it just got too heavy, so we went out after drive, managed to get a little bit of footage with the small handheld camera that we take out for behind the scenes. Managed to record a little bit of footage of the cubs, which we'll be sharing with you very soon. And when the rain did pass over, then we did try and go out onto Triple M boundary, but obviously she was just waiting because there was a hyena around at one stage before we got there, so one of the other guides had said, and I think she actually encouraged one of the cubs up a tree. Apparently the first tree was a false marula, and the second tree we found it in when we went back after drive was the bush willow. Russet bush willow. So they're probably about 3 months old now. The one was sitting with Mum on the floor, the other one was up the tree. Not looking too happy. It was raining. It didn't look like he was enjoying the rain at all. Probably it looked like he was a little bit concerned about being up the tree. They have definitely grown in size since I last saw them a few weeks ago. It could have been even further south. I just wanted to check down here on this corner. I thought that's where a hyena was calling from. So she was on her way over from the west. She did cross over Triple M, and she must have decided, because she was on quite a busy road. Triple M is quite a busy road. It's the main road. It's actually Mala Mala Main. It's the main road down towards Mala Mala from the gate. So she was crossing over, and she must have bumped into this hyena, and one cub went up a tree to escape from it. So as the rain stopped and the sun came out, she must have decided, with the hyena gone, it was time to move on again. So as Patrick got there, she came down the tree and started moving with those cubs. And they did find some tracks of her heading east along Buckles Cliff Line. So we're certainly going to have a look around that area today. I just thought, with hearing a hyena, it sounded quite persistent as well. Could have been it was calling other hyenas to a kill. Maybe it was a little bit further south than this. We should maybe try Rebecca's Road or Philemon's Cliff Line. Copy, I heard one of BT just on the southern side of quarantine. I just went to have a look, and there's only two that I can find so far.
Yes, okay, thank you.
if anybody would like to send in any questions this morning, please send them through to funandcontrol@safari.tv. I was hoping to see maybe a little bit of a sunrise. I'm keeping my eye on how the clouds are doing that side. Burn through the clouds. Check this eastern side of the quarantine area just for any activity, maybe at the baboons, and see if there's any more sign of the hyena. So it looked like the hyena may have been denning just on this northern side, so I was hoping we may just bump into it. It doesn't look like it so far. Good morning. There's been an elephant here. Very fresh down there. Two little youngsters headbutting each other. You can just about make the horns out on this young male. The impala calling to the other impala on the other side of the tree, I think. Or even its mother. Could be, oh, there's some more females quite a lot further back, and I thought I heard the female calling back.
Nkonzo from Kombe. just from 25 Standard East towards Office Road.
Well, let's leave them to it. We'd like to see if we can catch up with the hyena before it goes to bed. Okay. Come on, little one. I'm gonna run past. For some reason she decided she had to go that way. I don't know why. Oh, there goes the little one. Okay, we just have to quickly sort something out on the rig, so we'll just have to be with you in about 5 minutes or so. Don't go too far away. on. So I'd love to know why that hyena's calling. And maybe at some stage we might find him. I'm hoping. Just looking for any hyena tracks here. It maybe gives an indication of where to start looking. But I did find a lot of hyena tracks around Treehouse Dam a couple of days ago, so I think that's also a possible den site somewhere around there. It could be that's where I was hearing the calling from. Maybe somewhere around here. It'd be very nice if it starts to call again while we're down here. Or something. It's such a sad character that the hyena's been portrayed as, like a scavenger, and a lot of people don't like hyenas, but in actual fact they're highly intelligent animals and very competent hunters. I think there's a lot more to hyenas than what we realise. morning, Mr. Franklin. Tell Franklin flying off. I think this may have been a little bit too far south. There's not really any tracks here that I can see. Maybe we should try Rebecca's Road. We'll make a turn down by Treehouse Dam and come up Weaver's Nest Road. There could be some elephants in the area. There's some dug in the road. Not really any fresh tracks. It could have been sometime last night that passed through. Or the early hours of this morning. Good morning to you, Steve. Welcome on board this morning. And yes, we do get guinea fowls here. Although we haven't seen too many too often. I think the boys, Induna and Mishu, our resident male leopards, are taking them out very slowly, one by one. I think they're becoming quite efficient guinea fowl hunters. We do have some leopard tracks here. And the Franklins that just flew off were the Natal Franklins. Didn't realise until just as they flew off they were there. Looking out for signs of the hyena. This road's been very busy again. I keep finding a lot of tracks on this road. Good morning, Miss Lupo. It's been our spotted friends this morning. Either of them. Continue walking this way. Let's go and say hello to our hippo friend. See how he's doing this morning. Gives us an opportunity to also look over the side of the wall. Sometimes we like to sit down here. Good morning. Birchel's cuckoo calling in the background. You may be able to pick it out over the weavers and the woodland kingfisher. It's a very deep, liquid sounding voice. And it's thought the Birchel's cuckoo can predict rain. It does tend to call before the rain season, just before the rain season starts, and just before rain is on its way. It's been fairly accurate the last few days. So let's see if it's accurate today. They're not looking too impressed this morning. Now this is most likely a bull. Bulls tend to be on their own, or with families. If there's females around, they may have a pod of females with them. I think there's actually two hippos with notches in their ears. There's one hippo that's got quite a deep notch in his ear, and his ear folded over slightly. And this one doesn't seem to have as deep a notch. And this one seems to have quite a lot of teeth, whereas the other hippo doesn't seem to have too many teeth when he opens his mouth. Or very short teeth. Maybe he's seen a lot of battles. And that's what the very long teeth, the incisors and the canines on a hippo are used for. It's for defense and for fighting rather than eating. Maybe he's decided he's warned us enough over the last few days, because he doesn't seem to display too much anymore. Let's continue on while he's underwater. I want to go back this way, see if there's any tracks. No, now he decides to call. A little bit of a call. have quite a good look around for any sign of leopard or even a hyena around the bank. It doesn't look like it. The soil is getting very thin, so it's very difficult to see any tracks registering. He may have walked over the wall. Oh, porcupine quill in the road. Having a look on the ground for any tracks. It's quite overcast this morning, so it can be quite difficult for tracking. And just with us having some leopard tracks coming down towards Treehouse Dam, I just wanted to check along here to see if there was anything from the leopard. But this is the porcupine quill I just found. Quite sharp at one end. So this will be the end that sticks out, and the blunt end will be down towards the animal, or where it's attached to the animal. Now it's not a defense where the animal can shoot the quill from, which a lot of people think they can shoot the quills at animals, and it's not the way they defend themselves. They're not actually capable of doing that. What actually happens is when the animal is scared and it needs to defend itself, the quills will stand up. So you'll see that the whole it's like if you imagine a warthog with its hair on its back and the hair stands up, or even the nyala that we've seen with the hair standing up. They're actually able to erect these quills. They stand up, and it's like quite a big fan of quills. And then they'll turn their bodies towards the predator, and then they'll start stamping their feet, and they'll rattle their quills to show the predator, hey, I've got a defense here. If the predator decides that it's actually going to try and kill it, then the porcupine will actually start backing into it, or if it starts feeling very threatened by the predator, so it'll start backing into it. And if it backs into it, and they're very strong actually, if they start backing into the predator, that's when these quills will just detach and they'll stick it into the face or the body of the predator, and that's why you've got this very sharp piercing end, and they'll stick into the predator and then detach, and the porcupine will move away. But it can obviously be a little bit more aggressive than it sounds. But so they're not able to actually shoot the quills like a lot of people think. But they can use the quills for communication as well. And as I say, they'll rattle the quills, especially on the tail. They'll rattle those quills, and it's a very loud sound, so you can't mistake it at all. But they will drop the quills from time to time, and they are made of the same substance as your hair. So you do shed your hair sometimes, and it's kind of the same principle. So they will detach from time to time. But it does look like the tracks are also here. Unfortunately, the not really clear enough to show you. So if I can grab my book. And I can show you quickly what a porcupine track looks like. I can hold it here. This is the honey badger here, and this is the porcupine track. And you can see they do look very similar. Each of them you can see the 5 toes. But if you look carefully on the honey badger, this whole front pad is full, whereas the part of the front pad is divided up on the porcupine, and even this little back part of the pad, the porcupine has the 2 sections. You don't always see the sections, all the sections registering. You just look for this little line here and a little increase in sand or soil at that part of the track, and that indicates that it's actually a porcupine, and even the claws will register. So the honey badger and the porcupine aren't actually related, so it's quite amazing that the tracks do look very similar. The porcupine is the largest rodent here in Africa. The honey badger is a mustelid carnivore, so completely different orders. You hear the white-faced duck. They're flying over, that's why. So, porcupine was out and about last night. By the looks of it. Sometime even early this morning. The tracks do look fairly fresh. I have seen one here in the Sabi Sands. I was walking towards the gate where we had to access one night. And the hyena has been walking here. I think the porcupine has been digging. Eating roots and bark off the tree. Sadly they will ring bark a tree. And if the bark is taken off all around the tree, it will eventually kill the tree. Because it interrupts the flow of water and sugars and food up and down the tree. Yep, this has been a very busy road. like the porcupine even walked down here last night. Yeah, these tracks do look pretty fresh. I don't think it was out too long ago. That would be nice to see a porcupine. What I'm going to try and do before heading north, I should just do a slightly larger loop. We'll go down Shabam Road maybe. Let's see where those leopard tracks lead. Could be it's popped out further down on Weaver's Nest Road. Our hyena may have gone to bed now. We're not hearing him when we were down towards Treehouse Dam. Oh, it's a widow. I could not work it out. Can you see the bird on the road? We're too far away. I think we're just a little bit too far away. I'm looking at this thing in the road and I just couldn't work out what it is. I'm gonna... Now that he's turned. So the Paradise Wider. I think it used to be called a widow finch or widow bird, but I could be wrong. A wider is its name now, if it has changed its name. That's the first time I've ever seen them on the floor, feeding like that. And it's funny, your brain starts to recognise shapes, and my brain just wasn't recognising that shape at all. I could see it moving, and I thought I was seeing things. It was like a piece of dung moving. I thought, no, that can't be right. See if I can show you a picture. He's back out on the road. So this is the male Paradise Wider. And have you got him? Yep, there we go. Now, in the winter time, they don't have these long tails. They look fairly similar. No, they don't have a picture, unfortunately, but they They only look like this during the breeding season, during the summer. During the winter time they shed those long tails because they are a hindrance, and that's one of the reasons why they have them, is to show how fit they are. So if they have an extremely long tail and they can still survive, it shows that they are a strong individual. And the longer the tail, the fitter the individual, or so the theory goes. As I say, it's the first time I've ever seen it on the floor. And they will display those tails and they'll fly above fairly tall grass or wherever they are, usually out in the open plains, and they will display those long tails by flying very slowly, fluttering above the long grass. Now the female looks totally different. Oh, there he is. He's sitting on the branch now. You may have seen a female. The females look totally different. Maybe I'll show you here. This is the female here. So the female here, and then this is the male without his long tail. He does look more like the female in winter. So the female here, the male changing into his non-breeding plumage, and then the male with his beautiful long tail. Slightly different to the broad-tailed paradise wider, which is this one here. You can see the feathers are much wider, and it doesn't have, it's also very wide here, it doesn't have as much of a long pointed tail as the long-tailed paradise wider has there. And they're also not found here, they're found further north. So this is the common one here. So that is the Wider's long-tailed paradise wider. Trying to confuse me this morning. There he goes. He's just in the grass here. Beautiful little bird. And that's whose tracks I must have been seeing a bit further down. Those tracks I was looking at, they just weren't making too much sense. It was a long, sweeping, and that's obviously why, because the long-tailed paradise wider has been eating seeds from off the floor. one last try for our hyena. I'm wondering whether we should check out the hyena den. It could have maybe have come from there. Let's try Rebecca's Road and we'll pop down Zoe's Road and then down onto Shabam Road before we try heading off into the north. Good morning to you, Penny. Glad to hear from you this morning. And I've not heard of the wider that you're referring to, fork-tailed paradise wider. That's a new species to me. But I'm not too sure if you're saying if it needs to be forked. It sounds like that's from the name. So the tail looks quite long and tapered. That's the only two that I know, and I think I'll just have to refer to the book again. The only two that I know is the broad-tailed paradise wider from the north, or northern part of southern Africa, which includes the countries like Zambia, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, Namibia, Botswana. That's all part of southern Africa. But I haven't heard of the fork-tailed paradise wider pennies. I wonder if that's a new subspecies of long-tailed paradise wider, or whether it's a different species. I've just not heard of that one. The next time I stop, I'll check the book. Maybe it's just one that I've missed. Good morning, Jennifer. Welcome on board this morning. Well, good evening, since you're from Toronto. Asking why I'm saying floor rather than ground. I think it must be just, it's either an English thing or just one of my things. I have these peculiarities sometimes, as the guys keep picking up. This is where I heard of elephants were. I did go south, I was hoping we might bump into them if they were still around. Shell of Pan at these old tracks. Oh look. It's fairly old, unfortunately. Hi Kim, welcome on board as well to you this morning. And just for those of you who haven't seen my tracking book before, it's this tracking book, A Field Guide to the Animal Tracks of Southern Africa by Louis Liebenberg. It's a very good tracking book. So most of the tracks are pretty accurate. It has insects in and birds, some birds in, some reptiles, amphibians, and of course the mammals, as we saw. Got a few with my own notes on there as well, so you probably have seen the pencil marks on there. Just little tricks to working out which some of the more similar tracks are which. Especially the antelope. Antelope can be quite difficult. Of course, there are tracks that aren't in the book, like the tail of a paradise wider. It's always nice to have a quick check, especially if you do see an animal land or take off, and that's how you start to learn more about the tracks, and you can try and visualize what the animals are doing. Broad-tailed. Okay, I must have misheard on the radio, so yeah, I was going to say. So thanks, Penny. Thanks for coming back for that one. So you were wondering if it was the broad-tailed paradise wider. Thinking, I wonder why I haven't heard of the fork-tailed. So no, it was definitely the long-tailed paradise wider. We'll just have a quick check down towards the old hyena den. We're roughly in the right area that could have heard the hyena calling from. Otherwise, he's gone to bed. Hi Theodore, welcome on board to you this morning from Massachusetts. Good morning to you. Or again, good evening. And Theodore, there are animals that do hybridize. Wanting to know, are there any animals that crossbreed with each other? And hopefully I can find some more francolins, because it has been known that until francolin will hybridize with, I think, the crested francolin. Could be the crested. There's certainly another species of francolin it's been known to hybridize with. And maybe one or two other species of birds that will hybridize. Look like anyone's been around. The wildebeest we saw right at the beginning, the blue wildebeest, will also hybridize with black wildebeest. But for that to happen, humans would have interfered. Black wildebeest are found in pure grassland, whereas this is savanna grassland, so it's completely different habitat to what the black wildebeest should be found in. Blue wildebeest prefer this kind of habitat. So blue and black shouldn't inhabit naturally the same areas. And if they are found in the same areas, generally human influence has caused that. trying to think if there's anything else that will hybridize in this area. Quite interestingly, the zebra is unable to hybridize. They don't produce what we call viable offspring. The offspring is infertile, just like a mule. If a horse and a donkey get together and mate, and they produce a mule and it's infertile, it can't ever go on to reproduce, and that's where you get the separation in the species. And the zebra are also the same. The different species of zebra can't hybridize and produce viable offspring that are going to be able to go on and reproduce. And that's if that offspring survives through the pregnancy. And what you usually find, if there's animals that aren't able to reproduce viable offspring, a lot of the time they will have an abortion. If the mating's been successful, they will lose the baby, or the baby will die after it's born. So it is unusual for animals of different species to mate and produce an offspring that survives. And there's only special circumstances really that it can happen. As I say, the horse and the donkey are one of those species, or two species that can produce an offspring that survives, but it can't go on to reproduce. And that's where the whole argument of subspecies and species comes into play. Trying to define subspecies or separate species. The information that's coming through from Penny. I think Penny, you've sent some information through about porcupines and numbers and something about the hybridization, but I'm not quite hearing it, so hopefully we can get that information through again. I think I was hearing you rightly. Thanks, Penny, for sending it through. Just having a few difficulties with the radio down when I was talking about the porcupine. I think he was saying that in the Kalahari, porcupines make up around 50% of the carnivore's diet in the Kalahari. That's probably lions. Maybe that is all the predators in the Kalahari. But elsewhere it doesn't make up as high a percentage. And as I say, lions will try and get their teeth and claws into anything. And they're willing to give most things a try. And if they can work out how to get past those quills, then they are able to hunt the porcupines. I think it does take a lot of trial and error first, and maybe some lions get deterred, whereas others stick with it and eventually work out how to do it. And porcupines are pretty big as well. They can get quite large.